Hi guys, it's Rosie and welcome to Rosie Reacts. So today I'm going to be reacting to the explanation video from Bookish Theories for Agust Daechwita. And yeah, I'm excited because she usually does some really great breakdowns and I feel like there was a lot to break down in this music video, so let's go.
Hello and welcome back to Bookish Theories. In today's video, I would like to talk about Agust's Daechwita, focusing on a little breakdown and analysis of both the lyrics and the visual masterpiece they passed as a music video. Daechwita is a song that, much like the mixtape as a whole, reflects on Yoongi, Suga, and Agust's current mindset and successes, as well as his artistic growth from 2016 to present day.
I'm gonna take time to read the quote real quick. Okay, what do you hope listeners take away from the overall experience of the mixtape? This is how I've lived since August 16th, 2016. Hey, fun fact, that's my sister's birthday. Not this 2016 part, but you know, August 16th. And if the previous mixtape focused on telling the past, this one is about the present. Alright.
The title of the song literally translates into great blowing and hitting, and it refers to a specific genre of traditional Korean military music which involves wind and percussion instruments. This musical genre is usually performed by the army while marching in parade for the king. So you know what you have to do the next time that you listen to this song.
I love that basically during the chorus it's just like, you know, make way for the king is here.
But in the instrumentals, these traditional sounds are mixed together with modern sounds that belong to both hip-hop and trap. And as it turns
Sorry, I'm gonna read this quote too. Billboard interview. What about Daechwita made you want to incorporate it into this song and album? It all started with the ceremonial walk of the king. Daechwita is played during the military march and I was inspired to sample its beat. And since the track included a lot of traditional Korean musical elements, it made sense to also shoot the music video on Korean historical filming sites. Alright.
Turns out, this fusion of tradition and modernity is also reflected in the music video, which shows us an epic confrontation between the ruthless King Min and the gang boss Agust D. At the beginning, the video opens with King Yoongi sitting on his phoenix throne and then proceeding to admire the decapitated bodies of his enemies laid out in the courtyard. Now, if you are a fan of K-dramas, you probably recognize the palace here, because the video was shot at Daejanggeum Park, a very popular filming location that was featured in a lot of historical dramas throughout the years.
I haven't watched
the styling for this setting was inspired by a mix of several Korean periods, but one of the major influences was definitely the Joseon dynasty, which, as we'll see in a second, is a major inspiration for the entire plot of the video. After being introduced to the king, the narrative then moves from the palace to the market, where we see a cameo of Jin and Jungkook picking a fight with each other, and we meet the character of the boss, which is the source of the king's future downfall and the leader of the coup that will take place later on. Right off the bat, the difference between these two characters is pretty evident. One is a king, the other a commoner. The first fights for himself, the second fights for the people. But what makes it even better is the way both the song and the video deal with the contrast between past and present. You see, in the lyrics, Agust introduces himself as a king born as a slave. Now he wears a crown and flies on private jets, but this doesn't mean that he forgot where he came from, because as a matter of fact, he really didn't. He was born in a ditch but rose up to be a dragon, and he still remembers the days that led him to this point, which is the reason why he lives the way that he does and knows that he has quite a lot to lose. Now, judging by the lyrics alone, you would think that King Yoongi represents his present while Agust is a symbol of his past. But in the video, the king is associated with tradition while the boss is driving a car in the middle of the palace. And this is important because, much like the scar on his face suggests, this contradiction implies that Yoongi is both of these people at the same time. On the one hand, he is a ruthless king to his enemies, who challenges the norm and is feared because of that. But on the other, he is still the voice of the people, the boss of a movement that is meant to break tradition with a modern perspective that represents those that support him. In both the song and the music video, this duality is also conveyed with a lot of cultural and historical references. The line "born as a slave but now a king," for instance, is a direct reference to the movie Masquerade, which is a period drama about King Gwanghae, who finds a double among the common people in order to protect himself from the constant threat of assassination. The events that we see in the video seem to be heavily inspired by the movie, but as it turns out, the references to this king go a lot deeper than that, because in the lyrics, Agust compares his flow to the mad tiger Gwanghae. You see, Gwanghaegun was the 15th king of the Joseon dynasty, and even if modern scholars have been redeeming his name by praising his wisdom and strength, throughout history he was known to be a very violent and ruthless tyrant. Since he was the son of a concubine, Gwanghae was not the original successor to the throne, but because of his leadership skills and political abilities, he was appointed as crown prince and later on as the official successor instead of his older legitimate brother. Despite he defended his country even after the king ran away, his reputation during his rule was heavily affected by rumors that historians are now considering mostly false. And much like what we see in the video, his reign ended with a coup that happened overnight. Now, even judging by this little summary,
I really love that though, that he's using that type of reference, because to show that he must relate to that king a lot. I mean, that king was born from a concubine and wasn't the legitimate heir, I think they said. So he rose up and was selected because of his competence and his ability to lead. And I guess Yoongi must feel that way himself, because he is someone who, his talent and his skills and his determination is what brought him where he is. He didn't have the name of a company backing him up. You know what I mean? But yeah, I like that.
I just gave you, it's easy to see why Yoongi chose this character in the first place. Much like him, Gwanghaegun was not meant to be king, but became one because of his talents. Okay. His reputation was consistently tainted by his enemies, and even if he defended his country, he was considered a tyrant that didn't deserve recognition. In the video, Agust is now playing the tyrant that his haters make him out to be. They wanted a mad king and now they got it. And he's not messing around this time, because he's coming straight for their heads. Even if they call him a pup, he's nothing like them, and he doesn't even need to flex to prove it, because his enemy's pathetic behavior speaks for itself. This is because, much like he anticipated back in Give It To Me, he cannot live like a dog because he was born as a tiger. Now, the tiger is a very important symbol here, because in Korean culture it is an animal that represents courage and pride, while still conveying a sense of superiority that inspires fear and respect. The tiger is a noble animal that has nothing to share with the dogs that bark for attention. They're just below him, so without any hesitation, he just kills them all. What's interesting here is that Yoongi is not saying that his success made him a tiger, but that he was born as a tiger, meaning that in comparison to his enemies, he's not superior because he's famous, he's superior because that's the way that it is.
I love
now
that.
He may be king and he might be a dragon, but he was always a tiger, so while he shoves his past in a rice chest, he knows that he's standing on what
it's just
it
part
is.
of who he is.
Now, these lines here are very interesting because the rice chest is a reference to the story of Crown Prince Sado of the Joseon dynasty, who was executed by his own father and died of starvation inside of a rice chest.
That's a bit harsh.
According to the story, Sado was put to death because he tried to kill the son of an official. But since according to the law the body of a royal could not be defiled, the king had to get creative and find a way to kill his son while keeping his body intact. The solution that he found was to tie him with a rope and
Okay. I'm sorry, but that's just harsh. I mean, I know it says that they had to be creative because you couldn't defile the body of a royal, but a starvation in a rice chest? That seems, yeah. Couldn't you, drown him or poison him? Starvation, ouch. That's a tough way to go. That really is.
seal him inside of a rice chest for 7 days. And even if this sounds like a horrible act, this method of execution actually spared the life of the prince's family and saved his legacy. Now, the fact that Yoongi is a king and is choosing to seal his past in a rice chest implies that he's finding an alternative way to deal with the struggles that doesn't involve a complete erasure. He knows that the past made him the person he is today, and he knows that he needs to acknowledge that in order to maintain his roles. But he's choosing to deal with his struggles privately, saving what needs to be saved and killing what needs to be killed. To a certain extent, we can say that this idea is also loosely portrayed in the video itself, because much like Prince Sado, Agust is taken prisoner and tied with a rope. Now, Agust here is the boss of the story, the man of the people and the past that is reclaiming his place in the present. He's the one who was there since day one, and the part of him that people can relate to the most, because all the clothes, the money and the goals the king has in the present are the result of the dreams that the boss had in the past. It's thanks to him and his 6 gang members that revenues go up and Bank PD dances in his studio. He is a genius that became a king because he realized that time is more valuable than money. But to his people, he's not a tyrant that lost touch with reality. He is a guide that can lead them to revolution. This idea is perfectly conveyed in the video because when Agust is about to be killed, the executioner himself is the one who sets him free. Now, this part is very interesting because this scene was actually foreshadowed since the very beginning. If you look closely, the 2 executioners that we see in this scene right here are played by the same actors that play the butchers at the market. And this is...
Okay, sorry, I'm cutting her off in the middle of her sentence, but I find that so cool. Like, I didn't catch this during my first go-around, but I did notice that they were the same people after I watched the music video a couple of times. And I love what she's saying, that basically we can relate so much to the boss character of Yoongi, right? And like where he came from, like his story of you know, like coming from the bottom and working his way to the top, and basically what he says and stuff. Since we relate to it, he can help. He inspires us to be revolutionaries or something like that, right? I love that. I really do. It's so cool.
It's not a coincidence because, as a matter of fact, they are the very same people. You see, these characters are a close reference to the Daejanggeum, who were the untouchables of Korean society and were forced to be butchers and executioners because they were activities that were deemed despicable by society as a whole. Now, the fact that Agust is being helped by one of the untouchables implies that his message is able to resonate with people that come from all walks of life. No matter who you are or where you come from, no matter how much people hate you or disrespect you, Agust will be your voice and he will be your fighter. But once again, this reference goes even deeper than that, because if you look closely, Yoongi is wearing a necklace that looks exactly like the mask that is used to represent the Daejanggeum in theater. This implies that not only he leads the untouchables, but that he identifies himself with them, meaning that even after all he has accomplished, he is still the untouchable of the system that he rules and that still wants to destroy him.
Yes, so I really, like I said again, I really do love this. This is the reason why, like, all the members of BTS are, I don't know, just where they are today. You know, this is the reason for their success. You know, the little details that they include and the way that their message is meant to resonate with all sorts of people, like, and they really speak to people who don't feel like they belong somewhere, you know what I mean, or they feel like they've been stepped on and like they're misunderstood. So I really love that. I love that he included that little type of detail.
If in Interlude Shadow he wanted to be king, and in Tony Montana he felt like Scarface, now he is the king and he is the boss. But people still come for his neck no matter what he does. This, however, does not change the fact that he is at the top. But this kind of power also implies a reality check, because by realizing that he cannot get any higher, Yoongi also accepts the fact that now it's time to look down and put his feet on the ground. Now, these lines here are very similar to the lyrics that we can find in Interlude Shadow, Black Swan, and on. And to a certain extent, this implies that the final confrontation between the king and the boss can be compared to the confrontation between the persona and the shadow. You see, for Yoongi not to become the tyrant that people make him.
Oh look, I didn't even notice that, like how similar these scenes look, of like the shadow and the persona in Interlude and the king and the boss in Daechwita. That is so cool, and that definitely feels like it's purposeful. So that's awesome.
Him out to be, he needs to stand his ground and look at himself in the face. Even if he's the king and he's the boss, he also understands that there is a limit to his greed, and in order not to overstep it, he has to kill the tyrant by wearing the mask of the untouchable. In a way, this is the part of him that the king might have hidden inside the rice chest. That side, that is, that represents the essence of his artistry and that is meant to give a voice to the voiceless. When you are at the top, it's easy to forget why you started in the first place, but Jung is not allowing himself to forget. So at the end of the video, Agust shoots the tyrant by using an army revolver. This implies not only that you are the greatest weapon he has against his enemies, but also that you are the medium through which he keeps himself in check. You destroy his haters and you keep him grounded in reality. So next time you feel bad about yourself, stream D2 and give yourself a break. So that's it from me today. I hope you guys enjoyed.
Right, that was pretty awesome. I think that watching on my own, I got some of this. Like I got that. To me, it seemed like he was showing that he wasn't going to forget his roots and he was trying to keep himself grounded and like not get too big of a head and always remember where he came from. But this just gave a lot more detail, and I love that. I loved learning about the little historical context, like the untouchables and the king and the rice chest. that's a harsh way to go. And I love that little detail at the end about the army, like cult army revolver. I think that's something like that, right? So basically saying that like we are part of the part of his protection, kind of, right, or part of how he's able to defend himself against the haters and stuff. So that is awesome. So yeah, thanks for recommending this to me. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you guys next time.